Let me ask you a question that might feel a little uncomfortable, maybe even a little dangerous. What if everything, and I mean everything, you were taught about money, from grade school all the way to university, was actually designed to keep you poor?
That is a heavy way to start. You're talking about the rat race, aren't you?
Exactly. It's that gnawing feeling that no matter how hard you work, you're just spinning a wheel. I was reading this incredible story about a 9-year-old boy in Hawaii who asked that exact question. It completely shifted my perspective on what I thought I knew about success.
It's a terrifying realization, isn't it? We grow up thinking there's a script. Go to school, get good grades, get a safe job, retire. But that story you mentioned, it exposes the glitch in the matrix. It's the story of two fathers, right?
Right, and the contrast is it's staggering. So picture this. You have two father figures. The first one is the biological father. This guy is the epitome of what society tells us to be. He's brilliant. We're talking about a PhD, completed in less than 2 years.
Highly educated, respected.
Incredibly respected. He held high positions in the Hawaii education system. If you looked at his resume, you'd say, this man has made it. But then you look at his bank account or his stress levels.
And that's the paradox. He was living paycheck to paycheck.
Constantly.
See, this is what's so fascinating. You have a man with the highest level of academic intelligence, yet he's struggling to pay bills. He's always waiting for that next raise, thinking, if I just get a little more money, the problems go away. But they never do.
Because the hole in the bucket isn't the income, it's the mindset.
Precisely. And then you have the second father. This is the friend's dad, the rich dad.
Who didn't even finish the 8th grade.
A dropout. By traditional standards, he should be the failure. He shouldn't be the one teaching anyone anything. Yet this man possessed something the PhD didn't. He had financial intelligence. While the educated dad was reading books on pedagogy, this guy was studying markets. He was building an empire. He eventually became one of the richest men in Hawaii.
It really makes you wonder why we equate school smarts with money smarts. They seem to be totally different operating systems.
They are. And that's the tragedy of the current system. We spend years learning history, calculus, biology, all valuable things, sure. But we spend 0 hours learning how money actually works. So we end up like the educated dad, smart, hardworking, but illiterate in the language of wealth.
There was this specific part of the story that really stuck with me. It was about the language they used at the dinner table. It seems so subtle, but the difference is massive. The poor dad, the educated one, would say things like, I can't afford it.
Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy.
Exactly. It's almost like a defense mechanism.
It is. Think about what happens physically in your brain when you say, I can't afford it. It's a statement. It's a period at the end of a sentence. Your brain shuts down. You've absolved yourself of the responsibility to figure it out. It's a mental dead end.
Whereas the rich dad, he banned those words, right?
He did. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, he asked, how can I afford it?
Just that tiny switch.
It sounds trivial, but it changes everything. A question forces your brain to work. It triggers creativity. It forces you to look for solutions, for side hustles, for investments, for new value you can create. One mindset justifies passivity, the other demands action.
It's like one is playing defense and the other is playing offense.
Perfectly put. The poor dad lived in a world of scarcity. He thought money was something you had to hoard, protect, and save penny by penny. He was clipping coupons, postponing joy for a retirement that might not even be that great.
While the rich dad saw money as abundant, if you knew how to create it.
Right? He wasn't trying to save his way to wealth, he was trying to multiply his way there. And that brings us to the biggest lie we're sold. The idea of job security.
Oh, the holy grail. Get a safe job with benefits.
Ideally, with a pension, right? That's the industrial age recipe. It worked for our grandparents. You gave your loyalty to a company, and they took care of you. But that contract is broken. The rich dad saw that decades ago. He realized that relying on a job for security is actually the riskiest thing you can do.
Because you have zero control.
You're trading your time, your most limited resource, for money, which is theoretically unlimited. And you're doing it at a rate someone else decides. If that company fails or if they decide to downsize, your security evaporates overnight. It's a golden prison. The walls are nice, maybe you have a comfy chair, but you can't leave.
That's a haunting image, a golden prison. And I think so many people feel that. They feel trapped in that cycle of wake up, go to work, pay bills, sleep, repeat. That is the rat race.
And the wheel keeps spinning faster. You get a raise? Great. Now you buy a nicer car? Now you have higher payments, so you have to work harder. You're running faster just to stay in the same spot.
Speaking of buying things, we have to talk about the house. This is probably the most controversial point in this entire philosophy. I remember when I first heard this, I was actually angry.
Let me guess. Your house is not an asset.
Yes, I mean, everyone says your home is your biggest investment. It's the American dream. And here comes this uneducated rich dad saying, nope, it's a liability.
It hurts to hear, doesn't it? But let's look at the math, not the emotion. What is the definition of an asset?
Simple definition, something that puts money in my pocket.
Correct. And a liability?
Something that takes money out of my pocket.
Now look at your house. Does it put money in your pocket every month?
Well, no. I pay the mortgage. I pay insurance, property taxes, repairs when the roof leaks.
Exactly. Money is flowing out every single month. Even if the house goes up in value over 30 years, for those 30 years, it is draining your cash flow. It is keeping you tied to that job because you have to pay that mortgage.
So he's not saying don't buy a house.
No, he's saying don't call it an investment. Call it what it is. A luxury. A place to live. A liability. If you want a house, buy assets first. Businesses, stocks, real estate that you rent out to others, and let the cash flow from those assets pay for your house.
That is the fundamental shift. Working for money versus making money work for you.
That's the core of it. The educated dad worked for money his whole life. The rich dad built systems where money worked for him.
It makes me think about the education system again. We are churned out of these universities ready to be good employees. We are compliant. We show up on time. We follow instructions. But we aren't taught to be creators.
We aren't taught to be owners, and that's by design, whether intentional or just systemic inertia. The system needs workers. It needs people to keep the lights on and the machinery running. It doesn't necessarily need everyone to be free. Freedom is messy. Freedom requires risk.
And it requires a different kind of intelligence. You mentioned earlier that the rich dad had financial intelligence. What does that actually look like in practice? Is it just knowing how to read a balance sheet?
That's the technical part, sure. But the real intelligence is the ability to see opportunity where others see obstacles. Remember the I can't afford it versus how can I afford it dynamic?
Right.
Financial intelligence is looking at a disaster and seeing a deal. It's understanding the tax code so you don't give away half your wealth legally. It's understanding that risk isn't something to avoid, but something to manage. The educated dad avoided risk because he feared losing. The rich dad managed risk because he knew that's where the growth was.
It's almost like learning a new language. If you go to a foreign country and don't speak the language, you're vulnerable. You can get ripped off. You don't know where to go.
Precisely. And in the land of money, most of us are tourists without a dictionary. We just hand our money over to experts, bankers, fund managers, and hope they have our best interests at heart. But the rich dad would say, nobody cares about your money more than you do. He say, you have to learn the language.
I love that. Nobody cares about your money more than you do. It puts the responsibility back on us.
And that's scary for a lot of people. It's easier to blame the economy or the government or your boss. If only they paid me more. If only taxes were lower. That's the victim mentality the poor dad fell into.
Whereas the rich dad took radical ownership.
Radical ownership. If you're broke, it's a temporary condition. If you're poor, it's a state of mind. You can fix broke. You can't fix a mindset that refuses to learn.
So, for everyone listening who is currently sitting in that golden prison, maybe driving to a job they tolerate but don't love, feeling that anxiety about the bills, where do they start? Because this feels overwhelming.
It starts with a choice. The story mentions a commitment. Today, I choose to educate myself.
Not just I want to be rich.
I want to be rich is a wish. I choose to be financially free is a decision. It starts with changing the input. Stop listening to the news telling you the sky is falling. Stop taking financial advice from broke friends or family members who are just as lost as you are.
Start listening to the rich dads.
Read, study, understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Look at your bank statement today. Be honest. How much goes out to things that will never pay you back? And how much goes into things that will grow? For most people, the asset column is empty.
And that's the wake-up call.
That's the wake-up call. You have a financial genius inside you. We all do. But it's been asleep. It's been lulled to sleep by a system that wants you to be a good employee. Waking it up means accepting that the old rules, go to school, get a job, save money, are obsolete. They are rules for a game that isn't played anymore.
It's interesting because when you view it that way, it's not just about money. It's about life. It's about time.
It is absolutely about time. Wealth isn't just the number in the bank account. Wealth is measured in time. If you stopped working today, how long could you survive? That is your wealth. For the poor dad, it was maybe a month. For the rich dad, it was infinite, because his assets covered his life. That is freedom. Not having a Ferrari, but having your time back.
That's a profound distinction. We chase the symbols of wealth, the cars, the watches, but we miss the substance of wealth, which is freedom.
And that's the trap of the rat race. The faster you run, the more stuff you get, but the less time you have to enjoy it. You're working for the car that drives you to the work that pays for the car. It's absurd when you step back and look at it.
It really is. You know, reflecting on Robert's story, he was only 9 years old when he started realizing this. It makes me think it's never too early to teach this, but also, is it ever too late?
Never. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. You can rewrite your neural pathways. You can stop saying, I can't, and start asking how. It's uncomfortable, sure. You might have to admit you've been wrong about money for 20, 30, 40 years. But the alternative is staying on the wheel until you die.
And as the story says, we weren't born to just pay bills and die.
No, we were born to create, to contribute, to live abundantly. That isn't just spiritual fluff. It's a practical reality if you master the tool of money. Money is a terrible master, but an excellent servant. You just have to decide who is going to be in charge.
That is a powerful place to leave it. It's a choice between fear and curiosity, between the safety of the known, even if it's painful, and the risk of the unknown, which holds the freedom.
Exactly, and remember, your greatest asset isn't your house or your stock portfolio, it's your mind. Invest in that first, and the rest will follow.
So, to our listeners, take a look at your life today. Are you building a pipeline, or are you just carrying buckets? The choice, as always, is yours. Thanks for exploring this with us.
See you on the other side of the quadrant.